Peace and blessings, family. I am Anthony Muhammad. I thank you all for joining me on a new episode of Brain Food TV. I would first like to give my condolences to Brother George Floyd and his family, his loved ones, and his friends who are going through pain and suffering at this time. I would like to say something that may benefit our condition and our feelings toward what is happening. And that's that we should build something apart from our former slave masters so that we may be able to breathe again. We may be able to walk down the street without being concerned about somebody calling the cops on us and they identifying us as something that we're not. Be able to go to our schools and have our children come out confident because they learned about themselves and their history and what they can do for their future. So, everything that may seem to be a problem for us at this time can come to an end through our unity and our strategic planning. So one thing I would like to add to our strategic planning is that we were told by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad to study the ants. And I've went and done some research on how ants moves, their lifestyle, their colonies, how that is all operated. And there are some beneficial things that they do that may help us in this time. So ants, they tend to make wars. They have slaves at times, and even ants that sacrifice themselves to defeat an enemy. In the ant colony, there is no individual hierarchy. No ants being constructed, just working together in unity to fulfill the purpose of the colony. Between 9 million interactions, the ant network shows that there are 3 groups of ants, interacting mainly with the ones within their groups. Some ants cared for the brood, others cleaned the nests, and another left the nest to gather food. Each group has a social bond because they specialize in a given task. And we can see that, ball players are going to be able to communicate better with ball players. Doctors are going to be able to communicate better with doctors due to their specific profession. There was a 40-day test done on these ants, and this is some of the facts gathered from this. Most ants stayed in their group, but surprisingly, 40% of the ants switched their groups. These are the tendencies of the roles. Most nurses became cleaners. Cleaners became food gatherers, and the food gatherers usually live their life out as food gatherers. They have things sort of like promotions. The young and inexperienced cared for the brood. The best of those get promoted to cleaners, and the old take on the dangerous and challenging task of gathering food. So you can see that they play a role, and they have a natural kind of society that they use to where they see that if you are more skillful than what you are already doing, they will move you up and move you accordingly amongst the ranks. The ants did not intervene in the working space of other ants. And that's interesting. You know how nosy we are and how conflicting we like to be with the job and task of others. These ants just get their job done and happen to keep their mind focused because they know that their task is going to lead to the completion of the colony. The ants do not discriminate against each other. One group doesn't treat the other bad. The brute doesn't treat the young and the weak worse because of their size and their position. So, they have a unity that they have that is absolutely working, and it seems that they know this and it's within their nature to work in that manner. Every ant manages to interact with every group some point in time. So you can see how that will be important so that somebody would know the task and know the mindset of the other ants and what's going on. We oftentimes feel as if we can't communicate with other groups and other organizations within our community, but look at the simple ant, how they can do that and not have problems within their colony amongst one another. The ants live an egalitarianism society. Egalitarianism, the definition for that is relating to or believing in the principle that all people are equal and deserve equal rights and opportunities. Very beneficial way of thinking, as we as humans should be able to do because we are human beings made in the likeness and the image of God himself. The difference between us and the ants and their success is that they hold no friendship nor emotional ties to anybody. So they are not looking to, be loved, or they do not react to being lonely. They are only focused on doing their job because they know that their job is for the whole. Something very interesting happened in studying ants. It led to improving software for a company's routing system to retail stores, shortening route lengths by up to 20%, and reducing CO2 emissions and cutting costs. So we can see that studying the animals and the life of the earth can give us insight on how to successfully run our communities. Now I want to talk about the cry that America is having, the cry that Black Lives Matter. And when I hear that, I think that naturally everybody should be with this saying, because we should all feel that Black lives do matter. And the reason why that saying comes up is because obviously we have felt that our lives had not mattered to the American power structure. And sometimes people come and chant all lives matter. But let me tell you something about this. Do not condemn Black Lives Matter, because if we were at something like an extinction rally to where polar bears were extinct or going extinct, and somebody was to come and chant for the grizzly bears whose condition was at a higher place and at a higher level and higher quality than the polar bears, and nobody is paying attention to the polar bears and the grizzly bears are being well tended for. That's sort of how I see that situation. And I think that people might look at somebody crazy to come and support that. So as people, I think we should look at ourselves and see what we're actually supporting when we say that. We're just bringing up an important issue that we can see on screen, on video, and we're bringing light to it. So we understand that all lives matter. Black people have always understood that all lives matter and always respected every other life except for the lives in our own community. We have never retaliated against our oppressors and the people who have kept us in bondage. We have only been a detriment to ourselves, and we have forgiven the world for anything that she has done to us. We must put our petty differences aside for this bigger purpose. No more looking at titles or labels, because the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that sometimes the drunkard is a better quality person than someone who thinks they are intelligent, because the drunkard man is looking at the content within the bottle and not the label. And some people who think they are intelligent look at the label and discard what is inside. It is time to understand and appreciate the content under that label. It is time to look at what's right rather than who's right at this time. That will get us nowhere. That is not a solution. Figuring out who's right will never lead to the solution, because you will have people in different organizations always thinking that they are right. It doesn't seem as important. Now, as the importance that Black Lives Matter in the hearts of our youth, that we can no longer go around stressing the importance that Muslim lives matter, Christian lives matter, Hebrew Israelite lives matter, or Moorish American lives matter. Now, our people can see the selfish thinking within that type of teaching. So what we all should do is put those titles aside, because no, one organization is more important than the other when it comes to oppression of Black life that has been built up for the past 400 years. We owe it to our ancestors to unify. One thing that I'd like to say is that in America, we have gone through so much, and now the outcry for freedom, justice, and equality is coming back on the American power structure. What we need to do is unite. With our buying power and our spending power of $1.2 trillion, we can buy land for ourselves, govern that land with our own laws, and eventually we can cultivate the land to supply everything for all, of our needs. I don't suggest that we go to anybody who we have been asking for the past 400 years for freedom, justice, and equality and ask them for anything, because what babies do to parents is ask them for everything, but we are grown adults. We are a people, a society, a nation, a whole culture of people. So what we should do is look toward ourselves and our own ideas, and we can liberate ourselves. We've been asking for reparations, but the root word of reparations is to repair. We can repair our condition with our love for one another. And this is just something that I'm saying out of experience of being somebody who was asleep and woke up to the real issues of our people through the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, taught and led by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So when dealing with crooked police officers, what I suggest we do is keep our composure, because wicked people don't care that you know your rights. Wicked people sign up for that job to invade and violate your rights. So what you should do to prevent your death and to stay alive is just comply. Just comply. And it's all right too, because you live to see another day. And then you can wake up to the solution that separation is what's best for you. Separation and having officers within your community that come straight from your community and give understanding and love to the people in their community. So, one thing that I don't suggest doing is overexerting yourself on asking the police to treat us better. What we should actually do is recognize who some of these police officers are, and for trying to exert your power as a citizen over their power that they feel they have as a police officer. So I pray that you all get through this time of frustration, but I feel like it's time for us to gather our resources, have our own police officers, our own schools where we don't have to worry about the vaccinations that are recommended and are going to be mandatory eventually. I'm asking all of us to be able to reach out to our nearest organizations within our community, gather with the organizations that you are with, unify to build something better, see what you specialize in, and get the job done. There's no more excuses that we should be making. It's all within the power of ourselves, because we see the problem and we have the power to solve that problem. Do you think that when our ancestors were going through what they were going through, they were worried about whether their brother or sister practiced a certain way? When you are oppressed from a true freedom and human rights, I think that is the time to push all selfishness aside and come together to do something beneficial that has never been done for Black people before, so that we may benefit the next generation. I thank you all for joining me on this episode of Brain Food TV. I suggest us to move like the ants, because what the ants don't do after somebody kicks over an ant pile is they don't go and protest outside of the house of the person who kicked over their ant pile. They go and build a bigger ant pile right next to it and continue that job until they die. So what we shouldn't be doing is asking the people who have rejected simple human rights to us to be given that to us, because I don't know about you all, but I am tired at this time of asking. So we should put in the footwork. Let's transfer our anger and our frustration into buying into Black-owned businesses and spending our money with our people, so that we show the government that we will economically withdraw if you agree with the treatment that the police are giving to our people. So I appreciate you all for joining me on Brain Food TV. I'll see you all on the next episode. Peace.